Good afternoon to you. For Telesur, I'm Regan Levines in Caracas, Venezuela, and this is from the South. Public servants in Argentina have gone on strike, marching to the Ministry of Labor to present their demands to the new right-wing government led by President Mauricio Macri. They're asking for a year-end bonus of $380 to ease the pressure which inflation has put on workers' pockets. They're also asking for greater job stability, as well as the reopening of collective wage bargaining. Leo Pobletti has more from Argentina.
Thousands of Argentine public servants have taken to the streets in the first nationwide strike of Mauricio Macri's presidency. They came out to say loudly and clearly that they will remain on a state of alert and mobilised, warning the government to refrain from sacking or suspending public workers.
Because no one from the government will meet with us to attempt to resolve these problems. Really, this government has set out to roll back the state. They are neoliberals, and this is the ideology they have come to carry out. And that's why we're on the alert. We are mobilizing because we see our jobs are at risk.
President Macri has issued another decree instructing all ministries to review the public service contracts and tendering processes affecting some 76,000 public servants. Argentina's Association of State Workers has reacted indignantly to the review of contracts and possible layoffs announced this Tuesday by the government.
We woke up this morning to a decree published in the official gazette which says that all contracts signed over the past 3 years will be reviewed, which threatens many jobs. We're talking about approximately 63,000 public service jobs. On top of that, the process by which another 11,000 workers have become part of our state's permanent staff over the past 3 years will also be reviewed. This is without a doubt a critical situation, especially now in the middle of the festive season and the end of the year.
On this national day of struggle across the country, the workers demanded concrete answers to their complaints. They want a meeting with the government to discuss their most urgent demands, including the reopening of collective wage bargaining, an additional year-end bonus and guarantees of continued employment of public workers on national, provincial and municipal levels.
The streets are ours. They have the media and the state institutions, but they don't have the streets.
The workers are promising to remain on a permanent state of alert against any attempt to sack or suspend public servants and to defend wages and oppose the precarious employment policies the new government says it wants to introduce. No mainstream media outlet is here to cover this huge, massive rally of thousands of people who have paralysed the downtown streets of Buenos Aires. The people are here to ask the government to approve an end-of-year bonus to be able to tackle the huge inflation that has crippled their buying power across the last few weeks. Reporting from Buenos Aires, Leo Pobletti, Telesur.
Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro has called for a Congress of the People to meet in January to draw up plans for relaunching the revolutionary movement in 2016.
It's time to call a Grand Congress of the country, a Congress that will work out the main lines of a revolutionary counteroffensive and the rebirth of the Bolivarian movement, involving all the men and women of this country that want to take part in this great task of relaunching, rectifying and rebuilding the movement, the struggle. So today, the 29th of December, I'm announcing this for the second half of January, and I will call a special committee in the coming days to work out the details and organize this Congress of the Revolutionary and Patriotic Forces.
A un gran congreso de las fuerzas revolucionarias patrióticas, el Congreso de la Patria.
Maduro also issued a warning to the incoming opposition majority in Congress not to meddle with the new law on job security that he approved on Tuesday. Following their victory in the parliamentary elections, the opposition has talked of pushing for mass layoffs. But the new law states that no worker can be sacked before 2018 without just cause.
Con el pueblo.
We have to explain to the workers the historic importance of the law on job security for 3 years that I have just approved. Nobody should even think of changing this law. Ramos Ayub, just you try messing with this law for the workers.
Also in Venezuela, President Maduro is delivering the 1 millionth home constructed under the auspices of the nation's large-scale public housing program. It's called Mission Housing Venezuela, and it's provided the financing and infrastructure for residents to construct their own homes. In honor of this special occasion, we now bring you a special video produced earlier this year of one of the examples of this social program in the capital Caracas, the Caicashi Pioneer Camp.
Por estos momentos son los momentos perfectos. Los momentos así más críticos, más difíciles, sí, un momento que ya se cansa, pero uno tiene que seguir para adelante, porque si no hay eso, entonces tú no tienes motivo para seguir para adelante. Yo me paro todos los días a trabajar, me paro todos los días a estudiar, porque tengo un motivo, y es la construcción de mi propia felicidad. Y qué mejor forma de hacerlo con este sistema de vida comunal, así, autogestionario, que es lo que desarrolla el campamento pionero, pues. Bueno, son familias que se organizan con unos niveles que requieren muchísima responsabilidad. Es administrar los recursos, es planificar todo lo que se va a hacer, la toma de decisiones de todo lo que se va a hacer. Todo bajo unos estatutos, unas normas, todo pasa por una asamblea. Esa es la autoridad mayor en cada comunidad. Y bueno, nada, son un poco de gente que se organiza, un poco de familia que se organiza a construirse su vivienda. Digo, me parece valiosísimo que estemos pendientes ya de asumir las responsabilidades, pues. Ahora es una preocupación por resolver las cosas en comunidad. La construcción es carísima. Es costosísima. Y por eso, bueno, el Estado, como tiene el dinero, simplemente nos hace un préstamo, un crédito. Pero nosotros tenemos toda la responsabilidad y la integridad de devolverlo. Y tenemos que hacerlo. Por estos momentos son los momentos perfectos. Los momentos así más críticos, más difíciles, sí, un momento que ya se cansa, pero uno tiene que seguir para adelante, porque si no hay eso, entonces tú no tienes motivo para seguir para adelante. Yo me paro todos los días a trabajar, me paro todos los días a estudiar, porque tengo un motivo, y es la construcción de mi propia felicidad. Y qué mejor forma de hacerlo con este sistema de vida comunal, así, autogestionario, que es lo que desarrolla el campamento pionero, pues.
As the Caribbean island of St. Lucia prepares for general elections, political pundits and members of the public are calling on electoral officials to revisit the issue of rejected ballots. The concern over spoiled ballots continues to ring across the region, most recently in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, where elections were held in early December. Alison Kentish reports.
Elections in St. Lucia are constitutionally due by 2017. But the governing party has hinted that St. Lucians may go to the polls in early 2016. Political experts and members of the public are weighing in on an issue that has touched every regional election in the past 3 years, that of high numbers of rejected or spoilt ballots. St. Lucian political analyst Dennis Springer says this must be considered before going to the polls.
I am a little bit concerned about what we mean by spoiled votes. Because one party may say, no, these are not spoiled votes, whereas the other party will say, yes, these are spoiled votes. So we have to come to an arrangement as to, or some form of conclusion as to what is a vote that is not accepted.
Members of the public we spoke to believe the answer lies with an electronic voting process. Most Caribbean countries still use the pencil and paper method, marking the letter X next to the name of their chosen candidate.
Technology is a very good asset for us now. It helps to make our voting process much faster. And the number of spoiled ballots that we get, this could be eliminated.
When you look at the history of voting in St. Lucia over the years, we are plagued by this incessant problem of spoiled ballots. And that's due to a number of factors. People don't completely understand the process. We have to face the reality of illiteracy. People cannot read and write. And therefore, if there's something that is more graphic in terms of symbols, and that people don't have to go through the challenge of actually having to write the X or the cross, whatever you call it, I think it makes for a much cleaner and more efficient process.
There were 202 invalid votes in the December 9th elections in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves stated that there were more rejected ballots than the margin and that those ballots should be examined closely. The last general elections in St. Lucia were held in November 2011. The St. Lucia Labour Party emerged victorious, winning 11 of the country's 17 constituencies. Alison Kentish, Telesur, St. Lucia.
First Guatemala, then Honduras, saw the mobilization of thousands of protesters in 2015, demanding an end to corruption. In September, Guatemalan President Otto Perez submitted his resignation, and in Honduras, President Juan Hernandez is still facing very strong pressure.
The outrage movement, or indignados, appear in Guatemala and Honduras in April and May of this year, respectively. In both cases, protesters demanded the resignation of their presidents, Otto Pérez Molina and Juan Orlando Hernández, both accused of corruption and enjoying impunity.
Now there's a national movement made of social and political movements that are combining forces to confront the current regime led by Juan Orlando Hernández. There are regional structures and the indignado structure in the capital. There are 4 in total. We have made a coalition in the strong and unified opposition.
Guatemalan Pérez Molina presented his resignation on September 3rd, joining other members of his cabinet, like his vice president Roxana Valdetti. In Honduras, President Juan Orlando Hernández hasn't allowed an investigation against him, but other powerful political and economic figures have been investigated for other responsibilities. On December 14, former Honduran President Rafael Callejas was extradited to the United States for his participation on the so-called FIFA Gate.
In the last years, Callejas has been one of the country's most corrupt presidents, with a strongly cynical attitude and with a strong capacity of making fun of the Honduran people. He has now been asked in extradition by the United States, but he has always manipulated the public policies and been an ultra-conservative and a thief.
The outrage movement, or indignados, appear in Guatemala and Honduras in April and May of this year, respectively. In both cases, protesters demanded the resignation of their presidents, Otto Pérez Molina and Juan Orlando Hernández, both accused of corruption and enjoying impunity.
Coming up next, is the United States spying on Israel? Well, the details on this developing story next.
Behind the power, we lift the lid on some of the world's most ruthless figures. Open file, only on telesurtv.net in English. From London, an interpretation of current world politics as presented by the activist, writer and historian Tariq Ali.
The emergence of the United States as a global empire.
The world today, only on telesurtv.net in English. Wherever the news, you'll be there.
A new report by the Wall Street Journal alleges that the United States is reportedly spying on its ally, Israel. On Tuesday, the newspaper reported that the National Security Agency, the NSA, intercepted communication of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu with not only his aides, but also reportedly with members of the U.S. Congress. It was reportedly done to counter Netanyahu's campaign against the nuclear deal between world powers and Iran. Former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee, Pete Hoekstra, has called for an investigation into those allegations. In Syria, some 330 people who were evacuated from contested areas under a UN-backed truce have arrived in Damascus. The group is made up of people from two besieged towns located in the northwestern Idlib province and consists of both civilians and injured fighters. The truce deal reached in September is one of a number of ground-level deals to end the fighting in parts of Syria. Upon arriving, the evacuees said they were relieved, but that their thoughts were still with those left behind.
It's a great joy, but we are very upset about our families who we left behind.
According to security officials, more than 50 families were rescued in the Iraqi city Ramadi and evacuated by government forces. The civilians were being used by Islamic State group militants as human shields. For 18 months, the city was under the control of the Islamic State group, but it was recaptured on Monday. It is believed that Iraqi forces will now set their sights on Fallujah, another city in Anbar province held by the militant group. In 2015, Palestine joined a number of important international organizations. The affiliations are being considered an important step in the right direction for the country. Telesul's Noha Razin explains.
The president of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, actively sought for Palestine to join several international organizations in 2015. It was considered an important step in the history of the Palestinian state. The move outraged Israeli officials who have long opposed any initiative by the Palestinians to seek recognition of any international organization. One of the initial measures taken by the Palestinian government was to submit a request to join the International Criminal Police Organization, commonly known as the Interpol, in January 2015, before its annual meeting in November. Palestinian officials said that the step would be beneficial for the Palestinian police as they will receive training courses, expertise, and information from the international organization.
This is not a donation. It is a great achievement based on the sacrifice of the Palestinian people and their blood. Joining the international institutions was very important to us. It would allow us to submit complaints against Israeli occupiers and pursue its war criminals. Granting a Palestine a non-member observer state status of the United Nations, the raising of the Palestinian flag at the international body, as well as joining the international institution and forums, has exhausted the Israeli occupation.
In April 2015, the Palestinians became the 123rd member of the International Criminal Court after it filed a declaration accepting the terms of the court over alleged crimes committed across the Palestinian territories. Meanwhile, the Palestinian flag was raised for the first time at the United Nations headquarters in New York after a speech in which the president of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, addressed the General Assembly on September the 30th. The UN General Assembly had previously voted for a draft proposal which allowed the raising of the Palestinian flag at the UN, with 119 countries in favor, 45 abstentions, and 8 countries, including the United States and Israel, against. Noha Razin, Telesul TV, Palestine.
On Monday, Japan and South Korea reached a deal on compensating female victims of war, known as comfort women. Both countries described the deal as final and irreversible. However, hundreds of supporters, as well as surviving South Korean women who were forced into wartime sexual slavery, held a rally against the deal, which they say is a humiliating one. They demand that Japan take formal legal responsibility and apologize. The protesters vow to keep fighting to uphold the honor of those victims who have already passed on. It was an emotional revelation when 8 miners trapped for 5 days in a gypsum mine in China were found alive. Rescue personnel detected the surviving members with the use of infrared cameras. 9 others are still missing, while 7 have already been rescued, with 1 having died. So far, more than 700 rescue workers and rescue facilities have been deployed to conduct the rescue operation. Many cities have been affected by the ongoing bad weather in the United States, which has been responsible for a number of deaths. Here is Bianca Perez with more.
13 states have seen themselves affected by torrential downpours that began last week and continued well into this week. The flooding has reached maximum heights 15 feet above the record, which was broken in 1993. It is expected that the states of Missouri and Illinois, which have been the most affected, will see flooding well into next week as well. The Mississippi River, which was the one who spilled over, has 19 levees, which are the ridges that hold in the water, which are being watched constantly by the National Guard that now has been, of course, activated to help in the evacuations and also to maintain the flooding contained as much as they possibly can. Roads have been closed. There are cities that are completely underwater, and 35 deaths have been reported in total with all of the bad weather that the southwestern part of the United States has seen. This is all the information that we currently have. We will keep you updated as more information comes in. Bianca Perez, Telesur, Washington, D.C.
Two generations of Russian track stars from a single family are facing Olympic heartache. Sergei Shubenkov is a world hurling champion, but due to the provisional ban on Russia's track and field athletes surrounding the doping scandal, he may miss out on next summer's Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro. Interestingly enough, his mother also missed out on competing at the 1984 Olympics held in the United States. Back then, Russia had boycotted the Games as payback for the Western world's snub of the 1980 Moscow Olympics. Devotees of the Afro-Brazilian goddess Iemanjá Shah celebrated in Rio de Janeiro yesterday by dousing a life-sized effigy of the deity with alcoholic beverages and by carrying out a concert on Copacabana Beach. Iemanjá Shah, the goddess of the sea, is a religious figure that has her roots in Yoruba cosmology of West Africa, and that was brought to the Americas during the slave trade. She is a prominent figure in Santeria as well as in Brazilian Orisha worship. And finally, founding member and singer in the British heavy metal band Motorhead, Ian Lemmy Kilmister, died on Tuesday at the age of 70 of cancer. The band made an announcement via their Facebook page where they shared that Lemmy learned of his ailment on December 26th and that he had passed away at his home. Tributes have poured in for the heavy metal giant from Ozzy Osbourne, Metallica and the Foo Fighters, among others. You can join us on Facebook, Instagram and on Twitter for more on these and other stories. And for extensive coverage of developing stories, please visit our website, telesudtv.net/English. For Telesud English, I'm Regan Beans. Have a safe day. Bye.